Sadly, so many of some of our favorite events are still being canceled. We were
Yes.
hoping that by this time we'd be well on our way out of the pandemic, but we are still struggling, especially here in the state of Michigan, with the surge in the numbers. And one of those events being canceled, the Art Fair Village Fair. To talk a little bit more about that and all other things related to the businesses in the Birmingham Bloomfield area, let's bring in Joe Bauman. He is the president for the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. Joe, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Ronnie.
I want to go to the movies.
So I put this background up specifically for you since you gave me such a hard time when I swapped it out a couple shows again. So I do want to start with the Birmingham Theater, though, because there's some exciting news there if you hadn't heard. The Birmingham Theater was recently purchased by Paul Glantz's group with Imagine Entertainment, and it is going to become part of his stable. It is currently closed for what they're calling a refresh, but should be open back to serve the community by the end of May. So we're very excited about that.
With that, so do they still own the Imagine just a few doors down?
They do, yep. And so they will coordinate, the screens of the two theaters. And as Paul explained, the more screens you have, the more buying power you have with the film company. So it's a real good thing to have both of them under one ownership.
Yeah, and you know what's nice about that too is it's right there locally, and so they're trying to bring more people in because we need to keep the theaters open. We know some have been closing, especially the smaller, more independent ones, and I will say between the two, I like going to the Birmingham one. I know they're a block away.
It's a very iconic theater. I mean, as you probably know, for many years it actually had live theater. Before it was converted into a movie house. But there's a lot of history with the Birmingham Theater, and we're really happy that it's going to be under Paul's stewardship with the Imagine Entertainment Group, and good things to come in the future for it.
So with that, because we do know, how is the other movie theater doing right now? Since they've been allowed to reopen, has it been pretty successful? We know this past weekend, the huge movie was Godzilla versus Kong. And that's really what they're hoping is going to re-energize the movie industry.
Yeah, it's my understanding. I actually spoke with Paul probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they're doing fine on weekends, but during the week it's still slow. It all goes back to a little bit what we talked about last time with all of the offices, the majority of the offices still being empty with the state's work remote rule. You're not getting that critical mass of people downtown that might, drop in and see a movie after work or what have you. But we're hoping that as the summer comes and there's more activity and more people are vaccinated, that you will have more people coming back to the theaters.
Or anyone out there that's listening or watching, if you don't want to be around crowds, go during the week.
That's right.
That's the time to go. There's always a silver lining. It's just how we look at it.
That's right. You have to make lemonade.
So with that, Joe, we know that the governor has pretty much been saying over the past couple of days that she's hoping to reduce some of the restrictions come summertime. And of course, a lot of times we think of the restrictions from a public standpoint about the restaurants and some of the businesses and the capacity limits, but really probably one of the bigger impacts would be allowing for more office workers to return to the office buildings. Your thoughts on that?
So the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber helped launch a coalition about a month ago called End the Office Ban, and it was part of a Reopen Michigan Safely coalition that was spearheaded by the Michigan Chamber of Commerce for that very reason. Our downtowns were not intended to only serve and be supported by the residents of the community in which the downtown is located. It's critical for downtown businesses to have that daytime influx of office workers who shop before or on lunch hour or after work, who may go out for lunch or might meet a friend for a drink or dinner after work. It's critically important. And for, there's going to be a big decision made at the end of this month as to whether the office ban is extended, modified, reduced. We're we're hoping that it will be modified and that more people will be allowed to return safely, first and foremost, to their offices, and really put it with the employers and the employees to determine what's the best fit and what's the safest way they can reopen their offices.
Because we do know, in one side of this, employers don't want their employees to get sick, because if they come in and it spreads through, it can wipe out like their entire office or an entire floor or department. But with that too, I just kind of find some of these things where I'm trying to look at the science and data that she likes to quote when we're talking about, but the casinos can be open 50%. So if I can go inside and gamble for 8 hours, why can't I go into my cubicle, where a lot of office spaces are doing that, where they are spacing people out?
And that's exactly our point, is that there has to be some collaboration with the business community to address those kinds of issues. I'll give you an example. So our office at the Chamber, we have a staff of 4. We each have our own individual office space with the door. It would be hard to argue that we wouldn't be able to socially distance, wear masks when we're there, reduce the common area usage, and there's offices like that all over the place. So we just want the business community to be able to work with their employees, work with their labor groups if they're in a union environment, and come up with a safe and effective way to bring some people back into the office. Because while it is true that many people have done just fine and thrived working remotely, that's not the case for everyone, and there is something to be said for face-to-face collaboration, brainstorming, working together as a team, and that's really what's been suffering from having this office ban.
Yeah, and you wonder too, will offices do what a lot of schools have been doing, and they have cohort A, cohort B, so on, these days are for team A to come into the office, these days team B comes into the office, you do a deep cleaning in between.
Yeah, and back in April of 2020, it's hard to believe it's been a year now.
Right.
OSHA and MyOSHA both did issue some standards as to how businesses could keep their workplaces safe and what kind of standards they were required to use based on the intensity of the usage of the space. Every business in the state had to file a report with OSHA and MyOSHA outlining how they were going to keep their employees safe. The problem is we never really got to implement those, because then the state of Michigan, on top of that, with the first executive order, and then the state health department with their "if you can work remotely, you shall," kind of superseded all of the other work that had been gone into preparing your office for a safe environment.
We're talking with Joe Bauman. He is the president for the Birmingham and Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. And Joe, as we sit on the sidelines and we watch these numbers surge to higher than what they were this past fall, and even at some of the beginning stages of this pandemic, when you see those headlines, what do you think as the president of a Chamber of Commerce?
They're very concerning to me. Because we know what happens when we've had surges in the state in the past, and the kind of actions that state government has taken to try to combat that. It seems like right now, Michigan, like many areas, we're in a race. It's the virus versus the vaccines. And one of them is going to win, and we feel confident that ultimately the vaccines are going to win, and we are going to get through this. But in the meantime, with these surges and with the variants, it appears that the disease has become easier to catch and easier to transmit. And so the only surefire way to fight against that is by having as many of our people, residents, businesses vaccinated. And so it seems like at some point we're going to get to the point that you either are going to get vaccinated or you might end up getting the virus. And we would much prefer to have everybody vaccinated so we can loosen these restrictions and not have this constantly, having people worried about the virus.
So with that, as the numbers do start to surge, just thinking about the retail outlets that are a part of your association, what are you hearing from them?
So what I'm hearing from them is that they're going to continue to really work on their online selling platforms. They're going to continue to provide curbside pickup of where you can go online, you can make your purchases, and then you can stop by the store and pick them up. Many of the, especially the independent retailers, have gone to reduced hours and reduced days to try to help keep their employees protected. And also, though, again, reflecting the lack of foot traffic because of the office ban. So yeah. I think, entrepreneurs are amazingly resilient people, and they're going to figure it out, and they'll continue to figure it out. But there's no denying the economic impact that these shutdowns have had, all for good reasons for doing them. And I think, by and large, what's been done has been effective. But we really need to get people vaccinated, and we need to get to that herd immunity so we can put this behind us.
Well, the good thing is we're having beautiful weather today. Let's hope Mother Nature gives us the weather we got last year. We really can't complain. We had a beautiful summer here in Michigan. But in the summer months, we all love to go to so many of these unique events, which really kind of make our communities, our local communities. Do you anticipate more of them are going to be canceled going into the summer?
Yeah, it's so disappointing. So just in the last 2 weeks, the city of Birmingham has decided that to cancel the Chamber's Village Fair, which would have been our 57th annual, and this is the second year in a row that the fair has been canceled, which is really a historic, community event for Birmingham Bloomfield. And they also decided to cancel the Birmingham Bloomfield Art Center's annual Mother's Day Art Fair. And so those two happened around Memorial Day. They had been given provisional approval earlier by the City Commission, but the emergency manager in Birmingham determined that because of what's going on in the state and what he's seeing, that he didn't feel that we could we could guarantee a safe environment for residents and guests. So we're very disappointed with that. We understand, but it's a huge blow to the chamber. I've mentioned before that, the Village Fair, not only is it the largest fundraiser for the Chamber of Commerce, but also we partner with our nonprofit network, and we provide about $20,000 in grants to small nonprofits that are working so hard in Birmingham Bloomfield, like Birmingham Youth Assistance and the Lions Club and Rotary, and they partner with us to benefit from the carnival as well. So, and we're not going to be able to do that. This will be the second year in a row that we're not going to be able to financially support those small nonprofits that are really hurting. So, very disappointing, but we dust ourselves off and we start planning for 2022.
Well, and they're lucky to have someone like you at the helm over there at the Chamber of Commerce, because I know that people such as yourself, you guys are working around the clock to try to ensure that our businesses are able to keep their doors open. And we want to say, Mayor's right around the corner. Mother's Day, please, please, please support local.
Absolutely. More critical than ever. It's really easy to shop by moving your mouse around and doing a few clicks, but
it's that one-click thing on Amazon. You swipe it. I don't even know how my finger does that.
But I remind people that, for people who have children who were involved in any kind of organized activity, whether it be youth sports or scouts or dance or whatever it is, when you were holding your fundraisers and when you were looking for sponsors for your team, the company that wants you to swipe, you don't see their logo on anyone's Little League uniform or heading up a bake sale. It's the small independent entrepreneurial businesses that have always supported the community, and now they need our support so they can continue their support for sure.
It's so very true, and I know that so many of us are feeling the pandemic fatigue, but please continue to support local. Joe, it's always great having you with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here. I do want to mention very quickly, the beautiful new Daxton Hotel has opened. It opened last week in downtown Birmingham, right at Old Woodward and Brown Street, which if you're looking at my background, it's just a little south of the Birmingham Theater sign. So please check out the new hotel. It's absolutely spectacular, and they want everybody to come in and check it out.
And the restaurant, Madam?
Yes.
Is
already difficult to get a reservation.
So that is the good thing. Joe Bauman with us here on the MegaCast. He's the president for the Birmingham and Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. We always appreciate you and your expertise throughout the pandemic.